Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. And welcome to the Drinks Community Wellbeing in the Industry Right Now panel. I will be introducing my esteemed guests in a second. My name is Ross Carter. I have the honor of working with a very fantastic group of people, and we run the Drinks Community, which is a Drinks Trust project. For those of you who don't know the Drinks Trust, we are the drinks industry charity. We support people from the point of production to the point of sale, so that's a barman as much as a brewer. And last year alone, during the pandemic, we were able to help, thankfully, about 5,000 people. More recently, we have launched early this year the Drinks Community. The Drinks Community is an online platform for the industry. It's a place for peer-to-peer communication, support, well-being, as well as career support and career advice. So that is the Drinks Community. I am Ross, and I will now give you a little introduction to my guests. So first of all, I have drinks expert, mindful cocktail creator, wellness specialist, and healthy hedonist. Additionally, finding the time to have founded and built La Maison Wellness, the mindful drinking platform for people who want to drink well whilst removing, replacing, and reducing alcohol and bringing mindfulness into every glass. Please welcome Camille Vidal.
Thank you so much.
Woo. Next up, I have mixologist and bartender at London's Lyaness, industry commentator and media contributor, in particular on the subject of well-being and mental health, amongst others. Also finding the time to be a dance choreographer, as if you didn't have enough going on. Please welcome Clarke. And finally, I have, as if these people don't have enough things to do, I have ethical online retailer, planet positive spirits producer, and the founder and leader of Healthy Hospo, a not-for-profit company building happier, healthier hospitality industry. Please welcome Tim Etherington-Judge. So I'd like to be able to say I do as many things in my day-to-day life, but I don't. I just do the Drinks Community and Drinks Trust. I have a very, very busy panel, which feeds quite nicely into the subject of today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to propose some questions to my guests. Some will be for all of them, others will be individually to each of them. At the end of the session, please feel free to put your hand in the air and ask any questions. If there's anything that comes into your mind as I'm going, feel free to do that too. I can wander on over and you can ask questions. It's really not an issue. It's very inclusive here. So please, I will start as follows. So it's a question for everybody, and I think I'll start with you, Camille, in a minute. But what do you think are the most serious conversations around well-being we need to be having right now in the drinks industry for our staff?
Oh, wow. How long do we have? I mean, there's so many conversations that needs to be had in this industry, and I feel like that COVID and this global pandemic has really made everyone realize a bit more that we needed serious changes in our industry, that the hours, the support, the format of the industry was just not suited for people to be able to be in this industry for a long time. To make it more sustainable, we needed to change things. We needed to shake things up. So I think that on physical well-being, there is definitely things that needs to be done. I think the long hours, I think the lack of time off, I think all of that is something that we need to, when you work on being more supportive, I think we need to be more open of mental well-being in our industry and how difficult it is to be sort of like the person in between the stress of the service and the challenge of sometime our guests in venues and how much it impacts our well-being. I think we need to be open on our consumption in the industry. I think that too often we use alcohol and sometimes even drugs in our industry to use that as a coping mechanism that is actually spiraling us in our physical well-being, but also with mental health. And I think we just need to be a bit more honest and open to say this is an amazing industry, but there's a lot of things that we need to change in order to make it sustainable for people to remain in this industry and to be able to live this passion that we all have in a way that feels good in the moment, but also that we can do for a while. So definitely a lot.
Yeah, I suppose particularly at a time when we're trying to attract new talent as well. You know, if we want to offer people sustainable long-term opportunities, then now more than ever, I suppose. Camille, over to you. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I agree. I think having this the past 18 months off it's definitely made me kind of think about habits and things that I would do. Maybe I would be drinking too many beers after work, or I just wouldn't be finding enough time to actually sleep and actually cook a decent meal and actually have downtime. So I agree, yes. If I want to stay in this industry for a long time, I need to start thinking about where I can make these adjustments and how I can set myself up for a brighter future in the industry, essentially. So, yeah, I agree.
Tim?
Yeah, to come at it from a slightly different angle, more from a business point of view, I think everything that's going on now, we're experiencing this chronic staffing crisis, and it's not just in this country, it's globally. I think this is going to be really powerful for the health of our industry, because now for every person that looking for a job in hospitality, they have on average 40 jobs that they can choose from. So the power is really with us as employees to go to employers and start demanding better health and wellness. We're, as you said, we're going to have to compete to bring people back into the industry. We're going to have to compete with the supermarkets, with retail, all these other industries that people have gone to. And to bring people back into the industry, we're going to have to offer more than just better salaries. We're going to have to offer better incentives, better health and wellness programs, better working environments, better cultures to bring people back in and to keep them. Because what we're seeing is that people don't really want to work at the moment. There's they announced today there's 1 million job vacancies in this country. It's never been higher. And so employers are going to have to get more creative to make the industry more attractive and to make jobs more attractive. And one of the ways they can do that is by offering better health and wellness to potential employees. So I'm actually really positive about the future. Yeah, it's pretty difficult right now, but I think going forward, we're going to see a lot of changes in the industry.
That are needed.
100%.
Am I still? I'm there. I'm back. I suppose, and hopefully a lot of investment will come with that too. I mean,
Yeah, I really hope so.
What I'm seeing a lot is a lot of big brand owners investing more and more in training specifically. Putting people through mixology courses, trying to attract new talent into the industry. Which is great. I think we need that. But perhaps there's a more long-term view to this.
Yeah, I think when it comes to training, if you look at what hospitality is the delivery of the customer experience. It's not selling food and drink. Those are just two things that we use to give a great customer experience. So how do you give the best customer experience? It's by having healthy and happy staff. Because people are coming in, people don't come into Lyaness because you have the best bar stools or they invested in top of the range fridges. They come in to see you.
Agreed.
And they come in to see the other bartenders and the vibe and the atmosphere that those bartenders create.
Yep.
And you can only create great atmospheres with really healthy and happy staff. And I think more and more people are going to start realizing that it's better to invest in training their staff, particularly on health and wellness, than it is to buy top-of-the-range fridges or having a fancy floor tiling.
And I think this is an exciting moment when we can all come together in the same room and discuss, from the bartenders, from the people running, health and well-being companies. So what needs to change and how we can put it in place. And it's almost like we have the opportunity to rethink how the industry works, to find better options and better solutions. And I think that there is a role from the venues and the employer on maybe providing, you were talking about having the time to cook healthy and soul-nourishing food. Maybe the venues can work on providing good family meal, and actually food that will fuel the staff for the rest of the evening. Maybe we can talk more about wellness and well-being and all of that. But I also think that brands have a role to play in that. We don't need more pissed up parties for bartenders. I'm going to be real here. I think we need brands to really support bartenders and employees and venues in the way that is meaningful. They all try your brands. They don't need to taste it more. They don't need to drink more. They need support. They need to have more trainings. They need to have more moments of connection, more moments to be able to recharge. They need wellness and well-being. That's what the industry really needs. Yeah. And I think everyone has a role to play in that in order to make it work and in order to make it sustainable.
So true.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are definitely starting to see different ways that we are interacting with brands in terms of what we can offer, like no and low cocktails, like so important. Like we often feel like we're missing out if we're not drinking. So it's so important that we are having this conversation about drinking less, but still having a brilliant experience, still having complexity in your drinks and things like that. So yeah, we are starting to see these new initiatives coming in, and that's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting.
And I think one thing that is also making our industry challenging is the impression that there is no like journey for people to grow in our industry. You know, you become a bartender and then you feel like that the only option is to become a bar manager, and then you can become a brand ambassador, and that's the exit. You know, but I actually think that venues and brands again can really help to provide, you know, training for bartenders, and to not think that like your only option is to work for a brand, but actually how can we build our industry, how can we build a career, how can we make it more sustainable so people feel like that they can grow, they can really be supported, women feels like that they can have a family in our industry without feeling like they have to quit in order to combine the two and all of that. I think we need to really rethink of how we work as an industry, and to really put the support, the well-being, and the happiness of the people that work in hospitality industry at the front and center.
So it very much sounds like the ball's in our court as an industry now. And with the staffing shortage in particular, I think it sounds like the operators who go that step further, who offer that little bit more, perhaps are going to be are going to stand out and actually win in this time when they're looking to recruit staff. I think there has to be a point of difference, I think, from a lot of operators, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. Just to give you an example, so Byron Burgers have recently announced that they're restructuring their tip system to take some of the tips away from the front of house staff and give them to the chefs and the senior management. As a practice, because they are short of chefs and senior managers, so they're trying to make those packages more attractive to attract more staff. I put a post on LinkedIn about this and about what they're trying to do, and using their lowest paid staff to subsidize the wages of the people they're trying to attract, rather to prevent increasing their wage bill as a business, so insulating their margins by getting their lowest paid staff to pay for it. I wrote a post about it. It's hands down the most commented on, viewed, liked post I've ever put. It's like 50,000 views, and the comments from people on there, from the industry and outside, uniformly were for the staff, for better well-being, saying how unfair it is that this is happening. So I think that, you know, we've gone through 18 months where hospitality has been taken away from people. You know, we've been forced inside, restaurants and bars have been closed, and if you look at any of those surveys of asking people what they were looking forward to the most coming out of lockdown, after seeing friends and family, it was going to bars and restaurants. So I think people are now really aware of hospitality and how important it is to a functioning society, and they're increasingly looking at hospitality to be good, to do good, and they're going to want to support venues that are aligned with their personal values and, you know, their personal ethics and sustainability. So I think we'll see a lot more, both coming from the industry, and we have to do better, but also the customers that come into our venues demanding more from our businesses as well. So I think it's a very exciting time, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And time for culture change by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Right, I'll crack on, otherwise I'll overrun. Camille, a question for you directly, if I may. As a bartender, how have the last 18 months been for you? How they've impacted your well-being with furlough, work patterns, staffing crisis, COVID? It's all happened at the same time. What's your personal experience been?
It was quite an interesting 18 months. It gave me the opportunity to really take a step back and think about what else I could do. If I can't work in a bar, if I can't make drinks, what is also available for me? So that was quite an exciting thing for me. I started writing more, having media opinions about things in the industry that I wanted to discuss, I wanted to change. So it was quite interesting to do those kind of things. But now that we are back in kind of the thick of things and business is booming, it's quite interesting sometimes I find myself having to do two people's jobs alongside my own. So It's been tough. It's been interesting because I'm having to constantly pivot to find new solutions to problems that come up, and I have never really had to think like that before, and it seems to be a constant thing that I am having to be aware of.
So a little bit of out of the frying pan and into the fryer, maybe.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Making you more and more resilient.
So resilient. My skin is so thick now. So thick. It's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Tim, there have been a lot of conversations across all industry when it comes to maintaining a work-life balance. How can operators provide an environment for this to happen effectively for staff, especially in light of the staffing shortage?
Ooh, this is a tricky one.
Thank Millie for that question.
Well, I mean, we're already starting to see the impact of it with, some of the world's most famous restaurants like Gavroche cancelling lunch service because they don't have enough staff to be able to fit it. So rather than pushing their staff to the point of burnout, which probably would have been the traditional strategy, it's like, oh, just work 70 hours, 80 hours, 90 hours. Oh, you work 90 hours? You're a part-timer. This old attitude. And we're starting to see progressive and smart operators limit staff hours. So that's the first thing, right? If staff are being asked to work 90 hours, there's no work-life balance. It's just work and sleep and work and sleep and eventual burnout and fall apart. So we're starting to see some really good groups, like the Hawksmoor group, I always hold up as a good example, limit their staff hours to 47 a week. So if any staff works over 47 hours a week, it's flagged to senior management, and you can't do more than 2 weeks in a row at 47 hours or more. And this prevents, it gives the staff that great work-life balance. It also prevents burnout. Because once staff work over more than 45 hours, you see a significant drop in productivity and performance over the entire working day. So it makes a lot of sense to not do that from a business point of view. And then we're also seeing some really pioneering operators offering 4-day weeks. So cutting down, going like, do we really need to be open on a Tuesday? 5 people come in and we take £230. Do I really need to be open on that day? Or is it better for me to shut the business that day, give everyone another day off, and then have those staff working at peak performance on the Fridays and Saturday nights during my peak hours when my business is earning the most money? Because if I can raise the revenue there by 2%, 3%, I'm going to earn way more than the £230 of being open on a Tuesday. So smart business owners asking that question, and we're going to see, I think, more and more operators cut down their opening times, offering 4-day weeks. One of my favorite restaurants in Sweden, Faviken, the chef, the owner and head chef there, was on the verge of burnout from too many hours, and he went, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to employ twice as many staff, and I'm going to halve everyone's hours. And kept the prices the same. The prices are extortionate anyway, so only really a 3 Michelin star restaurant could get away with this. Yeah. But by doubling the number of chefs and halving everyone's hours, instantly dealt with the burnout situation. Everyone was super happy. The quality of the food went up. The quality of the service went up. So there's all sorts of really creative ways that you can do this.
I'm going to expand out a bit on this question, if I may, because I think I'm going back to a couple of questions. We're talking culture change again, or at least culture kind of evolution. And we talk, about operators. We talk about groups. We're thinking groups a lot of the time. But what I'm aware of is more and more indies opening up. And kind of towards the end of lockdown as well, lots of really excited conversation from bartenders who actually oftentimes decided, you know what, I'm going to give this a crack on my own. What can those small businesses be doing? Because oftentimes, it takes money to invest in these kind of culture changes. So if you're a small, what would you be saying to small operators? I'm actually going to put that out to everybody. Tim, if you wanted to start there, but everybody's welcome to join.
Yeah, I think as a small operator, obviously things are very different. And there it really comes down to culture. So treating your staff really, really well, and maybe you do need to get them to work some extra hours as you, I've got 3 startups, and it is a lot of work, and you do end up kind of sacrificing your work-life balance. But if you can make that work a really great culture, a really great place to be where people are really enjoying themselves, that will go a long way as well. And then I think the other thing is that we haven't spoken about, this is obviously the big elephant in the room, is that people are just going to have to pay more for food and drink.
Absolutely.
Absolutely fundamental. People are going to have to go out and pay more because we have to raise wages. We can't continue to have an industry where people have to work 90 hours a week. It's the only way they can earn enough money to pay their rent.
And I hope that like after, so many months of like bars and restaurants being closed and people missing it so much, I hope that it led people to realize the necessity and the importance of hospitality and the fact that yes, you can make a cocktail at home, but it's not going to taste the same that when it's made by the great bartender sitting at your favorite bar, surrounded by people that you love. So I think that like people hopefully have realized the value of what we do in this industry and understand why that comes as a cost, and will be willing to pay more for food and drinks in bars and restaurants because that's
so
exactly what we need.
I think we are starting to see that. I think people are being aware that even though they can get ready-to-drink cocktails at home, they love being in their favorite bars. And more often than not, I get people asking me, is service included? They're wanting to tip me more because they're aware that we really, really suffered from being closed for as many months as we were. Like, working from home wasn't an option for any of us. So yeah, I think we are starting to see that shift in cultural ideas towards hospitality, bartenders, all of these front of house staff. Like, and it's great. It's really inspiring and heartening to see, to be honest.
You saw in lockdown, people ordering restaurant food, paying restaurant prices, plus the delivery fee, the app fee, the service charge, to get lukewarm restaurant food in a cardboard box delivered. So they're willing to pay for it because they're paying more than they would when they went to the restaurant or to the bar, to have a worse quality of food and not to have the restaurant experience. So I think we do need, as a collective industry, to put prices up. So we can pay, and I would love to see an end to tips. I would love to see prices go up and wages go up so people are not reliant upon tips. It's a very unfair system.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a career, you know.
Exactly.
Right, Camille. This is Millie again. You could tell I wouldn't have written it this eloquently. You work hard. You work hard through La Maison Wellness to promote mindful drinking and wellness. Do you think we're any closer to getting hospitality staff to a place of mindfulness when it comes to alcohol consumption? And what can brands do to help the cause?
Yeah, I think that there is definitely an awakening a little bit in our industry. I think it started very much with physical well-being, bartenders realizing that like they needed to exercise a bit more to find a bit more balance. And then the conversation around mindful drinking has, started with more and more brands probably reaching out to them, and with them understanding that if you want to be successful in hospitality industry, you cannot wake up with a hangover every day. That's just not going to work, So I think that like by also taking a little break and unfortunately being at home and not able to work, a lot of bartenders and a lot of bartenders that I've been talking to took that opportunity to work on their sleep, to work on their physical, mental, emotional well-being, to make sure that they were eating better. And so all of that were kind of like coming into, one, and what we drink in the same way that what we eat is the foundation of our well-being. You can go to the gym every day, you can even meditate every morning. If you drink too much and eat crap, you're gonna feel terrible. There's no secret there. So I think we're getting there. I think that like bartenders are realizing that you don't need to overconsume alcohol to be a good bartender. You don't. You don't need to be out partying until 5 a.m. to have a community and to feel like you belong. And so yeah, I think we're getting there. I think there is still a lot of, education to be done on that, and I really, really hope that we can inspire younger generation to, start in our industry without feeling like that they have to burn out first before finding their balance. So, yeah, a lot of work to do, and I do think that brand again has such a big role to do in that because they have the ability to educate, inspire, connect, to provide budget to be able to really I remember when I was an ambassador for Saint-Germain, I used to go to venues and say, what do you need? what do you need? Like, I'm not going to just come in and do your training. Like, what is your staff needed? Do you need a moment of connection? Cool, let's go and do a brunch with your team where you can have a moment all together and you can sit around the table. You want to do more training to inspire women to join your company. I think brands can really tailor what they provide to venue by having a conversation, So, and by definitely, as I said before, moving away from this idea that it has to be tasting, that it has to be parties, that it has the last thing that bartender needs on their day off is another opportunity to go out and get drunk and wake up with a hangover the day when they need to go back to work, So I think that we just need to change the relationship and understand that it's a two-way street. Brands and venues need each other and actually can support each other and work in the way that will raise our industry up rather than making it so fun in the moment but not sustainable in the long run.
It seems like we're back at culture again, whether it's, retaining staff, whether it's encouraging people back into the industry, whether it's, educating bar staff around alcohol consumption. It's all this culture conversation, which just seems, it seems like we're at a really important point as an industry at the minute.
Yeah.
And culture is so broad, but yeah,
it's culture, it's knowledge, education, inspiration. It's also sharing, maybe it's training where you share the best practices, exactly like you mentioned. I'm sure that there's loads of venues and loads of independent that don't know what's happening and how they're doing management in big, venues or chains or things like that. So it's about sharing, knowledge, education, so we can make our industry better at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I would encourage anybody who knows of this culture change to please join the drinks community and post it on there and share the information. But we do need to get the message out that there is a culture shift coming, it seems, with the industry.
And actually, on your point, it's also for the brand to support organizations like the Drinks Trust, like Healthy Hospo, that are already doing amazing stuff. And they don't need to create everything from scratch, but actually support this organization that are doing amazing for the industry already.
Absolutely, I think that's absolutely right. Out-the-box solutions available from multiple different sources. So.
And even for, you know the Club Soda really well as well. Club Soda has an amazing mindful drinking training that is for the industry, that has been created for hospitality industry, that everyone should do. Not because you need to change your drinking habit, but because you should be aware of what does it mean to be a mindful drinker, how you can find your balance. And so all of that can be, even for a brand to say, I'm going to work with Hawksmoor and I'm going to get every single employee at Hawksmoor to do that training. It costs 40 quid. A brand
really
can
fun.
do that, and it's really fun, and it's helpful, and it makes the staff happier because they live better, and that's exactly what brands need to do to support the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And over the last year, through the partnership that we got with Club Soda, we put a couple of hundred people through the program for free.
Yeah,
we've done it too.
So I think it's important that the more access we can get to this, the better. I am on day 10 of my mindful drinking Club Soda course currently. Lockdown, yes, but I think we need to be honest about the conversation. It's there. A long shift. You finish at midnight. It's high octane. It's high energy. It's often for people that little mild sedative. And it becomes every day. And I think that it needs to be. We need to be honest and open and say as an industry that we're conscious about this.
And there's only so many trainings about malolactic fermentation and barrel aging that are particularly useful.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
And I think
if we can't say it as an industry, who can?
A big part of it is because training has been dominated by producers and by brands, and brands only want to do training about their brands.
Yep.
So the number of trainings as a bartender that I went to that told me about the production of whiskey, I didn't need to be told about the production of whiskey 27 times from 27 different brands. It doesn't add any value to me as a bartender delivering my job as a customer to the customers that come into my bar. Yeah. So I think creating a wider variety of trainings as well, covering health and wellness, mindful drinking, compassion, how to have a conversation with people. Yes. No one's ever taught me how to have a conversation with a bartender, yet it's one of the most fundamental skills you can have as a bartender.
Yeah. 100%.
And yet people will tell me about the hemicellulose content of American oak versus European oak. It's never come up in a conversation in a bar in my life.
Absolutely.
So I agree. I think shifting the importance onto wellness rather than information that we don't really need, I think it's going to be so important. And encouraging people like me, bartenders, to talk about these things, about what's really important to them, is where we're going to see these cultural ideas shifting, which is so needed.
Do you think? Sorry, I'm just going to carry on this conversation. There's a really do you think there's as a bartender that's working today, there's an interesting point that the industry, bartenders in the industry have become too focused on themselves, and it's become too much about the bartender and about the cocktails they make and about them. And if we shifted the focus back onto the customer and saying, like, as a bartender, what's the best thing I can do for my customer?
Yeah.
That would also then have a benefit for you as a bartender, because you can go, like, the best thing I do for my customer is to be well rested, to be up to date with the latest news, to be physically fit so I don't have a bad back, to not be on the edge of burnout, to be able to give that customer the best experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're having a great time, and consequently, you're doing much better as well. Do you think that's something that we...
Yeah, I 100% agree. Very rarely do I speak to a guest who wants to know about fermentation. Like, occasionally they do, but it's so much more important that they see that I'm happy to be there. If they see that I'm happy to be there, they're going to want to come back, they're going to want to stay longer. If I can talk to them about life, they'll be so much more interested. They're not going to think I'm just trying to sell them a drink or sell them a product. I think we need to, it's going to sound so cliche, but we need to go back to being human, and then everything else will come around,
So true.
in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that it needs to be, one extreme or another. Like, I don't think that, like, if any of you work for a brand, you need to go back to your office and say, now we just do well-being. I think that it's about finding the balance between the two. And I don't think that is just about the guest. It's also about you and your passion and your knowledge and what you love. And it's about finding that balance between the two and coming back to the DNA of our industry, which is hospitality, which is about being able to provide service and a wonderful time to the guest that comes into our place, to the people that we work with. And I think we're very good at finding balance in the glass and in the shaker when we make cocktail in our industry, but I think we need to find the balance in the way that we work in our industry, in the way that we interact with our guests. So again, it is more enjoyable and it's more sustainable.
Yeah, agreed.
And we need to empower voices like you that are, the younger generation of bartenders that are being vocal about mental health, that are saying, I love this industry, but it needs to work in a different way. Because we didn't really talk about this until we got older and we burn out.
That old bald guy.
Oh, seriously.
But it's so true, because it's your industry now. It's not our industry. You're the bartenders of today and the bartenders of tomorrow. So it's your industry to redefine in the shape that you want it to be, and we can be in here and help support, and that's our role now, as the elder generation to help you build the future industry that you and your generation want to build.
Yeah. Well,
and for the future generations.
Yeah, if we want that future generation, it sounds like the culture change needs to happen. I have done a terrible job of being a host. I had 8 questions. I've managed 4 in the allotted time. That's terrible. I'll never get the gig again. I'll apologise on camera to Millie. She's going to tell me off tomorrow. So I'm going to pick one question from here, and I'm going to ask each of you in turn, if I may. And it's one that I think is going to be pertinent in the next couple of months.
Ooh.
So,
let's lean in. This is going to be good.
Wait for it. So, what conversations should managers be having with their staff in the lead up to Christmas?
Honestly, I think being open to the fact that not everyone's going to want to work around Christmas, but it's inevitable. Bars are open, restaurants are open. So it's about allowing that conversation to happen and finding ways that they can accommodate everyone, because it's a really hard time of the year to work, 100%. So being accommodating for time, allowing people to potentially work, I don't know, in different ways that they haven't done before. Like, being accommodating with people's time around the Christmas period.
Yeah. I think providing the foundation so staff can thrive through these challenging periods. Food, enough time off, like helping, even doing a training on sleep, so people can really like recoup and like recharge when they're sleeping and when they have time off. Making sure that the conversation around mindful drinking, you have it with your staff, like all the foundation that we mentioned, like, you know, providing like, you know, I don't know, doing like exercise together, stretches before starting your shift, all of that allow people to have every pieces of the foundation looked after, making sure that everyone is drinking water on shift, that no one is dehydrated, and talking about all those things that really allow you to feel your best so you can give the best of yourself is definitely really important. And being open to having conversation and understanding that we all have suffered from this global pandemic, and it has affected us mentally, physically and emotionally and financially and all of it. And so understanding that people might be, you know, might need a bit more support or might not be able to cope with situation the way that they normally will do. So having really like a really good communication within the team, as well as looking after the foundation of well-being for staff.
Tim, it's going to be manic if we're allowed to open. That is in the lead up to Christmas. Yes. What would you be saying to staff?
I mean, Camille said a lot of it already. I think Christmas is a really difficult time, but it's also a really amazing time because, you know, when things are really busy and things are really challenging, it's when teams come together and they build the best camaraderie and the best friendships, you know, when you're all thrown in and you have to get through something together. So I think from a manager's point of view, having an open door policy so staff can come to you with some regular daily conversations, so you can say like, right, you know, the manager's role is to help the staff work to the best ability to get through. So as a manager, being humble and realizing that your job is just to help your staff with whatever they need to thrive in those shifts. So having an open door policy, being really humble and just giving the staff exactly what they need, whatever it may be, whether that's, you know, better food, a day off, a mental health day, a new pair of shoes because they got bad shoes that set their back. Whatever it is, just listen to your staff, have open conversations with them, act on that. So that's what I'm saying. I also want to come from a brand point of view. I think the brand's role during this Christmas period is just to support the staff. You know, it's not a time to sell. It's not a time to go in the pitch. It's just a time to say, right, how can we help you guys? You know, as a brand, can you deliver really healthy food at the end of the shift? So when everyone's like really tired, they've got some healthy foods, they have to worry about that. Maybe sending in a cleaning squad. So at the end of the shift, after you've just done like 5 deep for 3 hours, your favorite brand has organized a cleaning agency to come in and clean the bar for you. You know, so think of creative ways that brands can help just people get through, you know, make it just a little bit easier through this period. So, and as managers, you know, just support your staff. You know, if you have to go and clean the toilets, go and clean, or good managers should always clean the toilets, but do those things that make your staff's lives a little bit easier because their jobs are already super hard.
And I think making sure that like everyone is getting support. So for the manager to make sure that like whoever is above them, the owners or whatever the structure is in the venues, that they also have a way to be supported and to be able to unload. Because I think that like often we just put so much responsibility on managers, but then above them the support isn't there, and that's just also not sustainable. So making sure that like everyone in the structure is getting the support that they need.
So true. And then also, I guess the last thing to say is to lean on all of those people and organizations out there that are here to help the industry. So like La Maison Wellness, the Drinks Trust, Healthy Hospo, So Let's Talk, all these amazing organizations that are here to help. Lean on them, particularly during this Christmas time, because we are here to help you guys through this. So.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's true of you guys too, but in the lead up to Christmas, we've always found that there is a big peak in demand for our services. So please do tell all your colleagues, tell your clients, ask them to share it with their staff. There are lots of organisations here who can help. And it would be remiss of me, having massively overrun, to ask if there were any questions. I might be able to say one very cheekily. And if anybody? No, that's probably just as well, because I have massively overrun. But listen, guys, thank you very much for joining me today. You can find out more at Healthy Hospo. You can find out more at La Maison Wellness. You can find out more at the Drinks Community.
ABV drinks at Lyaness.
And
I'm
please do pay Lyaness a visit in the lead up to Christmas. Thank you all for having joined today.
Thank you, Ross.
It's been a pleasure to have you all, and sorry for overrunning.
Thank you.